Recalling what we discussed yesterday was about the conjugate addition. If you have any conjugate locations like this, then we can have either 1,4 addition or 1,2 addition depending upon what kind of a nucleophile we have. For that, we have seen some cases, especially in Grignard's reagent and Gelman's reagent, which is RLI. There we will have 1,2 additions more favorable, and in case of slightly weaker nucleophiles like R2CuLi or R2CD, 1,4 additions are more favored. Okay. At the same time, we also discussed how thermodynamically and kinetically controlled enolates are formed. If an enolate is formed from a less substituted carbon, which gives carb anion, that is the kinetic enolate. And if the double bond of that enolate is becoming more stable, that is thermodynamic enolate. Normally, smaller anions or stronger bases, which are small in size, they would go for thermodynamic enolates. Bulky bases like LDA or tert-butoxide, they will usually make kinetic enolates. Based on that, we did few questions, and now we will discuss today about the test or the oxidation reactions which are familiar in carbonyl compounds. First of all, to remind you, we have come across 2,4-DNP test, okay, which is by Brady's reagent, if you recall. Is by Brady's reagent. So when we take Brady's reagent and react that with any aldehyde or ketone, we will see a colored crystals forming. Okay, just remind you, Brady's reagent is 2,4-dinitro like this, and phenyl hydrazine. So this H2 will react with the carbonyl compound here. So this O and this H2 will react to form a C double bond N connection, which will crystallize right in a colored forms. So that's how we get a conformation for carbonyl compounds. Sodium bisulfate can also be used, especially to understand if there is any aldehyde or methyl substituted ketones. So it is more familiar for aldehydes and methyl ketones. So we can identify any of this presence using NHSO3. Iodoform will also be used for any methyl aldehydes or ketones, right? We have been doing that. And if you get a yellow precipitate, it shows the presence of iodoform. If you get a colorless liquid, right, which is form of chlorine, then it is CHCl3, and that would be chloroform. So this is haloform test or iodoform test. All of these are trying to determine carbonyl's presence. Now, suppose if at all I have to distinguish between aldehydes and ketones, okay. In that case, we can simply go for reactions which can give some oxidation reactions happening of aldehydes, which gives the which shows the presence of aldehydes. Okay. So mainly 4 tests that are being used, or 4 oxidation reactions that are used, is Tollens test, Fehling's, Benedict's, and Schiff test. Now how this test work? Let us see. All of this will give positive test for the presence of aldehydes and not so much for ketones. Tollens test, if you check out Tollens test, it is the how do we determine that there is a presence of aldehyde? You will see a silver mirror forming on the lines of the test tube. So if a silver mirror forms on the lines of the test tube, it confirms the presence of aldehyde, and that is called Tollens test. The reagent which we will be using for Tollens test is ammonical silver nitrate. So we take any ammonical silver nitrate, and always in basic medium. Okay, that would give us this reaction. Similarly, we have one more test called Fehling's test. Here we will see the indication of cuprous oxide forming. Got it? Which shows that there is a red precipitate which is forming, shows the presence of aldehyde. The reagent that are used are two solutions, Fehling A and Fehling B. Fehling A is aqueous copper sulfate. Fehling B is sodium or potassium tartarate. Okay, we'll see further. I'm just giving you a summary. Next, Benedict test, which is same as that of Fehling test, only that Fehling B and Benedict B are different. A, B are two test tubes. A is one test tube, B is one test tube. So in this test tube B, we have this solution, sodium potassium citrate instead of tartarate. Last, Schiff test. Schiff test is done by a compound called para-rosaline. So para-rosaline will give you a pink coloration if at all it is treated with aldehydes. So this is the basic summary of the test. Okay. Now we'll go one by one here and see how this Tollens test, Fehling's and all of them works. But before that, suppose if at all I give you a compound like C3H6O, we can see either it could have a functional group at aldehyde, ketones or cyclic alcohols. These are various isomers which we can see. Now if at all we have to distinguish these three, what are the tests we can do? Check it out. If we do 2,4-DNP test, it will determine both the carbonyl compounds. So you will have both the carbonyl compounds being checked. With Tollens test, only aldehydes would be detected. So Tollens is better for this, not for ketones, not for alcohols. NaOI, iodoform. Iodoform is only when you have a methyl aldehyde or ketone. So this will be detected, these two won't be detected. With sodium metal, we need to have a protic hydrogen, these two won't be detected, this will be detected. Okay. Like that, you got to know what will be used to distinguish the different functional groups. Okay. Now coming to Tollens test here, what's happening in it, let's see. First, if we take aqueous AgNO3 and add some aqueous NaOH, as soon as we add aqueous NaOH, Ag will react with OH starting to form AgOH, which will eventually form Ag2O precipitate. Okay. So you will see some precipitate of Ag2O forming in the test tube. Then as you add aqueous ammonia here, right, you will see a clear solution happening, which means this Ag2O gets dissolved to form a complex. See what is happening, this Ag2O which has formed will react with ammonia to form this complex. This is a soluble complex. This soluble complex is what we call it as the Tollens reagent. Here you can see AgNO3 is reacting with NaOH, which is forming AgOH twice as AgOH, which is eventually getting Ag2O precipitate. Okay, that when you treat that with H2O and Na, if you write the overall reaction here, we'll get this as Ag plus this one plus 2 OH minus is giving Ag2O plus H2O. Okay. So the idea is how to make Tollens reagent. I hope you got this. This is how the Tollens reagent is made. Now, once we get the Tollens reagent, okay, our next objective is to react that with an aldehyde. So suppose if you have RCHO, any aldehyde, and I treat that with Tollens reagent, I would get RCOO minus plus Ag, which means this has undergone oxidation. This has undergone oxidation and Tollens reagent has undergone reduction. Okay guys, right? So this reduced silver will look like a silver mirror, and that's how we confirm the presence of aldehydes, right? What are the reactions that happen with various aldehydes? Let us see that. Suppose if you have formaldehyde, formaldehyde will react to form Ag as a precipitate and it will form HCOO minus, get oxidized to this. Same here also, Ag will get precipitate, benzaldehyde will become benzoate. CH3COOH, this will also precipitate to Ag and gives CH3CO minus. And here also it will precipitate. This is furfural. Furfural will also become furfulate. So you'll get this. So these are the formations you will see. One important aspect you need to remember here, that we are doing it in basic medium. Okay. Now, if you see the oxidation state of aldehyde, and when it is changing to acid, here if you observe, it is +1 oxidation state, because carbon is losing 2 electrons to oxygen, gaining 1 from hydrogen. Here it is losing 2 oxygen here and 1 to oxygen here. So overall it is +3. So which means it is actually leaving 2 electrons. So 2 electrons can make sure 2 moles of Ag can be reduced, right? So which meant that 1 mole of aldehyde can actually reduce 2 moles of AgNO3. Okay. So this is what happens. Now if you observe the Ag plus, right, changing to Ag, and this ammonical silver complex changing to Ag, that is reducing to Ag. If we observe the reduction potentials, it is around 0.8 and 0.15, which means silver has much stronger oxidizing power. That is, silver ion has much stronger oxidizing power to convert into silver. So why can't we just simply use Ag plus? Instead of that, we are using ammonical silver. The reason is Ag plus is a stronger oxidizing agent, right? So it will reduce so rapidly that it will settle down like a black precipitate of silver. But if you react that with ammonical silver, because it is a mild oxidizing agent, okay, because it is a mild oxidizing agent, we can expect that it will make a slow deposition. So that's why on the walls of the test tube, right, so we will see slowly a mirror formation is observed. So we do not take this to avoid or rather to make sure to observe the silver form. This is a mild oxidizing agent, and this would act a better purpose as compared to that of only taking Ag plus salts. Okay. So I hope you guys understood that. What is the idea behind Tollens reagent? Now, when it comes to Tollens, we need to just check out all the cases in which it gives the positive test. For instance, if we take benzaldehyde, okay, or we take acraldehyde, or we take glyoxal, in all of this, what kind of a product you will get, right? And would there be any disturbance in other groups or not? Alright, so let's see that. So first, with benzaldehyde, you will see you will get this as PHCO minus plus 2 moles of Ag. With the second one, it do not disturb double bond at all. So this will also become an acid and 2 moles of Ag. And in case of glyoxal, okay, both CHO will get oxidized. So you will get CO minus and CO minus plus 4 moles of Ag. Okay. So this last one is important to understand that it is not 1 mole, both the CHO groups will get oxidized to this form. Okay. So this is what has been identified with aldehydes. But this test will also give positive recognition even if you have alpha hydroxy ketones. So if you have alpha hydroxy ketones also, Tollens reagent will oxidize the alpha position of this OH group. Okay. So this more or less it would happen something like this. This OH minus will attack on this H plus, remove out that water. That O minus will try to make a double bond here, removing this hydride. Got it? So that's how it happens. Again, mechanism for any of these cases is not important for us. Only we need to know which cases Tollens reagent would give. So what it has been identified that all alpha hydroxy ketones, they will also give positive test towards Tollens reagent. which means you will get this product, double bond here, double bond here. So alpha beta, di alpha ketones are formed and silver will get precipitated. Okay. If this di alpha is at the primary position, I mean if this alpha hydroxy is at the primary position, first it will form, alpha keto aldehydes, and then again Tollens reagent will react because there is a aldehyde end here, so we will get this as CO minus, okay, and silver will get reduced here. So please remember this second case, that alpha hydroxy ketones will also give positive test towards Tollens reagent. Now that brings to the next important case, especially in biomolecules, we will study something called.
Sir, if
Yes, beta, please.
sir, if alpha carbon does not have hydrogen,
If alpha
because
come again.
alpha carbon has OH group, sir.
Ah.
If it when it forms double bond, a H group is leaving.
There is no hydrogen, no oxidation, beta.
Okay. And then no reaction.
No reaction. Okay. This is compulsory with an alpha hydrogen. Okay. Without alpha hydrogen, no reaction. Okay. It cannot form double bond O, no? Next. Check this case here. See, in biomolecules, especially carbohydrates, we will distinguish all carbohydrates into two categories. Either they are reducing sugars or non-reducing sugars. Reducing are those which will reduce the Tollens reagent or Fehling's reagent. Okay. Glucose and fructose are considered to be reducing sugars. Okay. Reducing sugars, which means glucose, for the obvious reason, glucose is an aldehyde, so definitely it will reduce the Tollens reagent. Fructose on the other hand is not an aldehyde, it is actually a keto form, but this also has an alpha hydroxy keto, right? So this is an alpha hydroxy keto. Since fructose is an alpha hydroxy keto, it is also becoming a reducing sugar, because this will also give CO minus here, double bond O. Got it? So that is an important part to understand, that alpha, glucose and fructose both will be reducing sugars. See, non-reducing sugars are those which either have an acetal form or they do not have any alpha hydroxy groups. For instance, sucrose. Although sucrose will have, acetal form, because of its acetal form, it will not have any reaction in this basic medium. So it is a non-reducing sugar. Okay. We'll be checking about that in biomolecules once again. So from now on, just keep reminding that glucose and fructose are reducing sugars. Why? Because of the presence of either an aldehyde form or an beta alpha hydroxy keto form. So overall reaction, if you check it out, we would have this as double bond O and double bond O plus Ag getting precipitated. So this is what we have seen. This is the second case where Tollens is giving a positive test. Let's see the third case. Third case is only specific case which is for formaldehyde, okay, HCHO. HCHO, because of the presence of this hydrogen, right, this hydrogen can also undergo oxidation. And now in case if you have even formic acid, for instance, if you have HC double bond OH, okay, and we react that with Tollens reagent, this is already an acid, right? We don't usually see acids reacting with Tollens reagent, but this time, because of this hydrogen which can still be further oxidized, this reaction will happen and form carbon dioxide and silver will get precipitated. So this is a special case where formic acid is also getting oxidized further to get carbon dioxide. So rather, this is the only acid you will see there is a reaction with Tollens reagent. The minute you come across the acetic acid, now there is no hydrogen here, so no reaction with Tollens reagent. Okay, so this is the next case. Next, if you have hydroxylamine, okay, you know hydroxylamine, NH2OH, right? NH2OH is what we call it as hydroxylamine. So if it is connected with some R here, so this is alkyl hydroxylamine. So in alkyl hydroxylamine, if you treat that with Tollens reagent, here also we will see oxidation can take place, and here it will become N double bond O. So nitroso group will come and Ag will get precipitated. So again, please remember this, there need to have this hydrogen to make this oxidation to work. Okay, so if you have dialkyl hydroxylamine, then it doesn't work, it needs to have this hydrogen. Okay, next, hemiacetal. Just if you recall, hemiacetals were this form, we had OH and OR form, and when you keep that in dry HCl, they were stable, but when you keep that in basic medium, they are unstable, and in acidic medium they are also highly unstable. Here the solution is basic, so hemiacetals cannot be stable here, so they will react with it. Basically it would happen something like this: OH minus will pull proton from here, the O minus which is formed will form a double bond here, and this RO minus will leave. So first it will get back to the aldehyde form, and from the aldehyde form the reaction will further take place. Okay, and again the presence of hydrogen is must here, so we cannot have hemiketal, it has to be strictly hemiacetal. Then Tollens reagent will give this reaction RCO minus plus Ag plus RO minus and Na plus, whatever the OH minus which you are taking, that would be the case. Okay, that is with hemiacetals. Last thing you would see, it will also make a reaction with terminal alkynes. Tollens reagent will make a reaction with terminal alkynes. Ammonical silver nitrate, the Tollens reagent, when you treat with this hydrogen can be removed out, acidic hydrogen can be removed out with OH minus. Okay, and that C minus will form, a precipitate with silver ion, Ag plus. So here silver is not forming, silver is not getting reduced. This is not a reduction reaction. It is just an acid base reaction. So which means silver is not getting reduced. So there is no silver mirror test. Remember this. So there is no silver mirror test. Instead here we will get just white precipitate. So you have to be careful with the questions. If the question was asked which of the following will give silver mirror test, then you do not consider terminal alkyne. But if it is said which of the following will give reaction with Tollens reagent, then yes, this will give reaction with Tollens reagent. Okay, or if it is asked which of the following will give precipitates with Tollens reagent, then also this is correct. Okay, so check out question carefully and do this. And this would be a white precipitate which is forming. Right, you have done this in alkynes if you recall. So this is about the cases of Tollens reagent. Now coming to the Fehling's solution. Fehling's also does the same thing, converting aldehydes to acids. Okay, what are the reagent that we will be taking here? First, we will have two solutions separately. One is copper sulfate, the other one is sodium and potassium tartarate. Okay, first we take copper sulfate. Copper sulfate is blue in color, and then we take potassium tartarate in the other test tube, correct, and we add both of them, right. So when you add both of them, this copper will form a complex with this tartarate. The complex would look something like this. So you can see this is tartarate. If you just if I recall, this is tartaric acid, OH, COH, COH. So this is tartaric acid. So if you replace this hydrogen with Na plus and here with K plus, that would become sodium potassium tartarate. Sodium potassium tartarate is also being sold as Rochelle salt. So this salt when you react that with copper sulfate, it would form this complex. Okay. Again, the reason for not taking copper directly, right, is we need a slow reaction to happen. Got it? And the E naught value with respect to this complex is slower, and reaction will happen very slowly here. So you would see that there is a deep blue color formation of solution here. Now taking this deep blue color solution and then adding an aldehyde to it, okay. Now if you add an aldehyde RCHO, that would become colorless, and this copper will start becoming precipitate, and that would be a red precipitate of Cu2O, and that confirms the presence of aldehyde, or it is getting reduced and aldehyde is getting oxidized. I hope this part is clear. Now again, if you check it out, copper sulfate, right, which is Cu2 plus, is converting into Cu plus, right. So which means if at all I take 2 moles of copper sulfate, that is needed for 1 mole of aldehyde here, right. So because you can see that 1 mole of this here, if you check out oxidation state, it is +4 changing out to +2, okay. So because overall the charge here is +4, overall the charge of copper here is +2, so 2 electrons are being uh, gained. So RCHO will lose 2 electrons here to form RCO minus. So 2 moles of copper sulfate would be needed for 1 mole of RCHO. Okay. I guess all of you understood that. Now, like I said, when the complex formation is seen, right, in this complex formation, copper will become very stable, right, and its reduction potential would be very, very low. And for that reason, if the reactivity of aldehydes is even, if the reactivity of aldehydes is less, then the reaction doesn't happen at all. So in fact, if you see benzaldehyde and glyaxol, both will give Tollens reagent test, but they do not give Fehling's test. Okay. So you'd see Fehling test would be failed for benzaldehyde or glyaxol. Okay. Benzaldehyde with any donating groups on it. Suppose if you have benzaldehyde with any electron donating groups on it, even they will fail. Okay, electron donating groups. And benzaldehyde with electron withdrawing groups like nitro, they would give the test, but again the reaction will take a longer time. Okay, so we will say that would be very debatable to answer, like, you know, whether it will give or not, or how much time it is. So instead your questions would be asked mostly about either benzaldehyde or benzaldehyde with electron donating groups. Got it? And in both of them, Fehling's test would be failed. I guess all of you understood that. Yeah. So glyaxol will also doesn't give this reaction with Fehling's test. So just remember only these two are the cases. Okay. Now last one, if you check out Benedict test. Benedict test is exactly like Fehling test, except the fact that the salt which you are using, that is solution B which you are using, is different. There we are using tartarate, here we are using citrate. Got it? The reaction is almost the same, except it is believed that Benedict is slightly more stable complex as compared to that of Fehling's complex. Benedict's complex is relatively more stable. Okay, but that is not going to impact the overall reactivity what Fehling has does. Okay. So same thing, you can see copper sulfate added to this sodium potassium citrate, it would give you a deep blue color solution, but this time the complex is, so we'll get Benedict solution. This is the citric acid, if you remember, COOH, COOH, and in this, on this carbon also there is COOH with OH group, that is called citric acid. And this complex, right, when you treat that with RHO, it will also form RCO minus and CO2O. So here also you can see it is 1:2 ratio. For every 1 mole of aldehyde, 2 moles of copper 2 plus will get reduced. Just like Fehling solution, here in Benedict solution also, benzaldehyde and glyaxol does not give the reaction with Benedict test. Rest all the cases what we have learned, right? Suppose if you see all these cases, which include, you know, formic acid, hydroxylamine, hemiacetals, terminal alkynes. There also with terminal alkynes, you know, with copper there would be brown precipitate forming, brown red precipitate forming, correct? So all these reactions will be given with Fehling's and Benedict, except that benzaldehyde and Glagzol. Okay. And the last test in this is Schiff test. Schiff base is different, Schiff test is different. Remember that C double bond N with some R group here or phenyl group here. We call them as the Schiff bases. Got it? These Schiff bases are different. Schiff test is different. Okay. Hugo Schiff was the scientist who made this. What exactly he did is that he took a solution of rosaline. This is a rosaline solution. Got it? And he added aldehyde to the rosaline solution to get a pink coloration, which confirms the presence of aldehyde. Okay, the overall reaction is out of the syllabus. We just need to know what actually happens with Schiff base. So don't worry about remembering it. I'll just give you a brief idea here. See, this is the structure of rosaline. The common name is rosaline for this. Got it? This is HCl added rosaline. So when you add HCl, here it was NH2, and when you add HCl, it will become NH3 plus and Cl minus. And this, when you treat that with SO2, because this usually appears rosy pink color. This appears rosy pink color. When you add SO2 to this, got it, or sulfurous acid or SO2 gas to this, then it will become colorless. Basically this NH which is present right here, that will get reacted with SO and it will form NHSO3H. Okay, SO2H, sorry, SO2H. Yeah, so this is what you will see. And this is the colorless Schiff reagent which is formed. That when you treat with RCHO, now this SO2 will be relieved and aldehyde, on this SO2 we will have this aldehyde formation. Got it? This brings the color back and it will get pink coloration, which shows the presence of aldehyde. Okay, so all you need to know is that aldehydes, when we treat with Schiff base, pink color, that's it. Okay, don't worry about the structures or anything, it is just for your reference. Next, if you see polyhydroxy phenols, right, polyhydric phenols, here if they are at ortho and para position, we can actually show as if they are ketones only, right, like this. Again, so these are ketones only. Got it? So on both the positions we can see, and ortho position we have, this is an alpha hydroxy ketone only. So if you have an alpha hydroxy ketone, the reaction will take place and we will get this as the product. And this doesn't happen at para or meta. At ortho you will see this case. Next, if you see, we have aldehyde here, and the other side we also have a terminal alkyne. Terminal alkyne also will undergo reaction, not the oxidation here, just the acid base reaction to form a salt on that side, and this side we will have proper reaction plus 2 moles of Ag. Last one you would see here, this is in hemiacetal, so the ring will open up and here you will have OH, and this side we will have double bond O with H, sorry, with O minus. Okay, and this will be O minus as well. First one out of that is Favorsky rearrangement. Keep writing with me now. So in Favorsky's rearrangement, what we are expected that in case if you have an alpha halo, right, group here, alright, so that could be any aldehyde, any ketone. If we treat this with a strong base like ETO minus or OH minus, strong base when you take it, right, so there is a rearrangement step that happens and you will get the final product as an ester like this. You get this as COOET, R here and R here. Alright, the yield is around 50 to 60%. So let's see the mechanism, how it is happening. Keep writing with me. First, as soon as we have this case, this is H here, sorry. As soon as we have here H, R, X and R here. So ETO minus will first extract the alpha hydrogen here, and it will make a double bond formation here to give this, and immediately we would have this as R double bond here with O minus R and X. So far clear? Now as soon as we have here, this pi bond will act like a nucleophilic site and that would attack on this carbon, which means this bond will close and this pi will attack here, relieving that X2. That X if you relieve, so we will get, now I am writing this as a cyclic form with double bond O, this goes connected here with, we have R here and another R here. This is what we got. Now once you have this, ETO minus is still there in the solution, which will act like a nucleophile and attack here, because this is a 3-membered ring, so this carbon which is in a double bond form will be highly reactive, right? So this will act like a nucleophile and attack here, relieving this. We will get this as soon as this attack happens, we will get O minus, OET, R here and R here. Again, O minus is an unstable form, so it will immediately try to close it as a double bond, so this bond will break. Now this bond breaking can be done in either side, or it can be done in this side or as well as this side. Okay. So because both are being reported, here I took R, both sides they are symmetrical, so you can get both of the forms here. So you'll get this as R CH with C double bond O, OET. This is what has been formed here, and on this side, on this carbon, if you check out this carbon, we have CH and CH2 and R, sorry, CH minus and R. Okay, so this CH minus in the presence of ETOH, because this we are taking the solution ETO minus and ETOH. So we will get this as R CH C double bond O, OET, CH2 R. Okay, that is the final product. This is the product we are expecting. And there is an NMR, in NMR spectrography there is a proper evidence of this cyclic formation, right? So which is clearly showing that ETOH will attack on this alpha hydrogen also and forms this cyclic form and gives the cyclic form. Okay, I hope all of you understood what is Favorsky. Let's see how the question is being asked. This was once asked in JEE, so I'll just show the question. This was the question asked, like if you have double bond O with Pr and there is an asterisk mark given here, which means it is an isotopic carbon, and if you treat that with OH minus, what is the product formation? Okay, so it was given in a multiple correct option. So check out, as per the mechanism, see the shortcut. See, don't worry about how the mechanism is happening, sir. Just see that Br is a leaving group, so we have to leave that, we have to relieve that Br, so which means just make a bond here. So we can know that we will have this double bond O and make this bond here, that's all. Okay, now OH minus has to attack out this position, and as it becomes, we will have O minus OH with this bond here, right? And as soon as this closes, I said what, bond can be open on both the ends, got it? It can happen on both the sides. Asterisk mark is here, got it? So which means you can have product on both the sides, right? So the final product would be this with COOH with asterisk mark here plus COOH plus asterisk mark here, and both of them would be 50-50%. See the next question, which is of a similar kind. This time it's like this: we have a double bond O, Br here, and like this we have a methyl group on this side and hydrogen here. Okay, and it is treated with NH2 minus. Strong bases are important here. Now think what should be the product. So these are the steps which are involved. Get O minus NH2 this. As this closes, this bond can shift here or this bond can shift here. So I'll write both the products here with C double bond O NH2, or you can have this with C double bond O NH2. Okay, now why this case is important for us? See, when the bond is breaking, this bond is pushing, electrons are pushing towards this carbon, which means this would gain carb anion character on both the sides. During the transition state, you would see this carbon will start having, both these carbons will start gaining carb anion character. So the push would be more towards the less substituted. Got it? So this is less substituted. So push would be more here. So bond will break from here. Got it? So what is left out in that case? We will have this form as the major. So this form would be major and this form would be minor. See the next important name reaction. This name reaction is Reformatsky. Okay, earlier we learned Favorsky and this is Reformatsky. Reformatsky reaction. What we are doing, we are taking an aldehyde or a ketone, treated with alpha halo ester. We need to have an ester group for sure. That when you treat with zinc and hydrolysis, it would give us beta hydroxy ester. This will give us beta hydroxy ester. See how the reaction works. Suppose if I take an example of R C double bond OH plus alpha alpha halo ester, like this. This is an alpha halo ester, and I treat that with zinc and CH3 plus. I will get this as RCH OH forming here, and this gets connected. So can you see it is exactly like an aldol only, okay, where on this the reaction has happened and this group got connected. So it is simply beta hydroxy ester form. I guess we understood that. Let's see the mechanism. So zinc is a source for electrons. So imagine this as if electrons are being released, and on the alpha halo, this one Br minus Br, on the alpha halo ester, these electrons will attack on the carbon which is delta positive to relieve that bromine. As soon as you will get this as carb anion here. Okay, so we will get this as a carb anion plus Zn Br plus. Now this carb anion will become an enolate here. So this will exist in the form of an enolate as O minus, and near O minus we will observe that Zn can be present here, and this is what happens. So in books you would see directly this is been given. So basically enolate form is being formed here. Now once you have enolate form, this will act like the nucleophile which can attack on RC double bond OH. So RC double bond OH which is present. So this enolate would be reacting. So it will attack here. You have ZnBr plus. Got it? So as soon as that is done, so this minus will become double bond here, and this would become O minus. So we'll have R, C, O minus, H with CH2, C double bond O, O18, which on hydrolysis will give us RCOH, H, CH2, C double bond O, O18. So that is the final product. Last mechanism which we will discuss, which will end our aldehydes, is benzoin condensation. I think we have done benzoin before also, right? Benzoin condensation. It is given by aromatic aldehydes, valid for aromatic aldehydes. For example, if I take benzaldehyde and treat with KCN in the presence of ETOH, we will get this as PH, H, OH and C double bond O, PH. We discussed this during benzyl benzalic also, that benzyl can be formed by oxidation of benzoin. So this is benzoin. Okay, keep writing with me. Let's see how the mechanism works. So first we have PH, C double bond O, H. CN being a strong nucleophile attacks here. So we will get this as PH, C, O minus, Cn and H. Now this will be in equilibrium, right? This will be in equilibrium with what happens, this carbon, if at all, suppose if it gets carbon anion formation C minus, that can undergo resonance stabilization with C triple bond N here. So this H plus can be transferred to this, intramolecular transfer can be observed, and you will have C, OH, C minus and Cn. The C minus is resonance stabilized on both sides, Cn also and pH also. That's why this intramolecular proton transfer takes place. Now this, if you treat with the second molecule, which is P double bond OH, okay, and we'll get this as PH, C, OH, Cn with C, O minus, PH and H. This is what is formed. Again, this OH minus will extract this OH because this is more acidic, so it can give away H plus. So proton transfer will be observed with C, O minus, and this will become OH, PH and H with Cn. Now this O minus will attack here, Cn minus will relieve. We will get this as PH, C double bond O, OH, H and PH, which is benzoate, removing out Cn minus.